Welcome to While You Can, Adventures in Life and Legacy Planning.
Welcome to While You Can, Adventures in Life and Legacy Planning with Amy Reagan. Amy is a Florida estate and succession planning attorney who helps professionals, property owners, and business leaders create thoughtful, customized plans for life's major transitions, including business succession, incapacity, and the transfer of wealth. I'm Lisa Mosby. Joining us today, our two special guests we'll meet in a moment. Together, we'll be exploring what planning really looks like when multiple generations are involved, balancing family, business, and the realities of what gets passed down both financially and personally. Welcome, Amy. Thank you so much for being with me today.
Good to be here with you, Lisa. And today we have Alicia Herron of Full Life Organizing, as well as Ashley Gajdosz of the Gajdosz Home Team. She has a family business focused on real estate that we'll hear about soon.
Beautiful. Beautiful. And Alicia, would you start by maybe sharing a bit about your business, your family, and how your work intersects with people navigating life across multiple generations?
Sure. Thank you so much, Amy, for having me. And my business is Full Life Organizing. I've been operating this business for 4 years and started as something that I could do while raising my two small kids. I have a 10-year-old Hazel and a 6-year-old Heath, as well as my husband, who I keep organized on the regular. And I started this business in the hopes of helping families find delight in their homes and enjoy their stuff at the same time, which often can be really overwhelming. And it's been a really great blessing to be able to help people navigate how to keep order in their home, enjoying the things, but also not being ruled by their things.
Well said, Alicia. And Ashley, the same to you. Can you tell us about your work in real estate, your family dynamics, and how those two worlds come together in day to day life?
Yes. So my family and business is completely intertwined. So I have been a real estate agent for 17 years. I have a family team. It's with my mom and my brother. So real estate and family go hand in hand with us. And then I'm also a mom. I have two boys, Tanner and Trip, and they are 11 and 9.
And this first question is going to be for Alicia. From what you see in your work, how do families begin to distinguish between what truly matters and what ends up becoming just stuff?
Ah, well, one of the things I run into a lot is called perceived value. This is the idea that something costs a lot to a person within a home, whether it be a parent or a spouse, and that item to the person has perceived value. So they keep it, they hold on to it, when really it's already depreciated in value. It doesn't actually have any value, and they're simply keeping it based off of a perception and not having the hard conversation with them is a detriment. There are also things that have value. And it's important to make those distinctions so that things aren't getting donated that do have value and things aren't being kept that actually don't have any.
And then what tends to happen when families take the time to understand the stories behind the heirlooms and spend time together while they can?
Yeah, this is one of the most beautiful parts of my business is getting the ability to help families cherish and honor the things that matter to them. Every piece has a story, every item has a story, and a lot of times people will hold on to those things but not actually share those aspects. And so coming alongside them, putting systems in place that honors the items, whether they be photos, albums, mementos, those cherished goods, making sure that those things are documented and then saved in a way that honors the integrity of those pieces is a really big honor. The other side of the coin is that a lot of times when those things aren't taken care of ahead of time, they start to degrade, and really a lot of the antiquity of the item, a lot of the cherished aspects of something, a picture, maybe some print on some books and things like that, it starts to degrade, and then those items aren't as cherishable, I guess, to future generations. And so I get to come alongside and be the person that helps preserve that for all of the families and the people that I work with.
Alicia, how does having those conversations earlier before something forces the issue to change the experience for families?
So I could come at this from a business perspective, having worked with families over the course of several years. But more recently, I'd like to come across from a personal perspective. I have my grandfather lives just a couple hours north of me, and my grandmother unfortunately just passed away just last month. And we had been dealing with Alzheimer's and dementia. And so there was a progression of her memory that we were no longer even able to communicate on a very simplistic level. It was just she was here and then she was basically gone. And they have sheds filled with items from yard sales and antiques and things like that. And unfortunately, I never was able to sit down with her and go through all of those items, even though I knew I should have. They're very quiet people and they do keep to themselves. And so I missed that opportunity, unfortunately. And now, with my grandfather during the funeral and everything, I said, Grandpa, I'm coming back. I want to go through and I want to get the stories of these items before it's too late with you. It's an awkward conversation to have, but he received it very well, understanding. I mean, time is limited and those things they all have stories and I want to know them. I don't want to just have to go through things. And a lot of times, unfortunately, within my business, I meet people after the fact, and so we have to go through their things, and it is a arduous, time consuming process, especially in a state of grief, for people to have to go through things and piece together stories on their own without the owner of the items going through it. And so really, from a financial standpoint, going through the things while the person is alive really does save money, as far as like hiring professionals to go through it. But also, it just is a more delightful process than having to do it in a state of maybe trauma or grief.
Agreed. I can see how that would be the case. Ashley, from your perspective, working in real estate and investing with your family, how do decisions around property and ownership shape relationships across generations?
So I think that real estate is the number one way to grow wealth. And with the way that businesses are run these days, I get worried. People aren't working traditional jobs. So very important that I had the conversation with my brother because him and I buy houses together. And then to our kids as well, is that these are going to be yours, is that people don't have traditional jobs or stay with jobs long enough that this is so important for them to have a place to live first and then have assets and money coming in and a retirement plan, basically. So, getting everybody on board and being with like-minded people, my brother and I, our minds work very similar together. So, having good goals in places up front, I think was really important to have. So,
And when you're balancing your own family dynamics along with building and investing, what does that look like in practice on a day to day level?
they fall in line well because I'm the boss. And so everybody knows just to do what I say, and then that's the easiest. But I think that playing to our strengths has been I know what I can do well. I know what my brother can do well. I see where my own family fits in and where I can have productive conversations. And then sometimes I just leave them out that it's not in their wheelhouse. So I think knowing your specialty and where you're strong is the best way to do it and have that conversation up front.
And Ashley, what have you observed about how families approach major decisions like buying and selling, or maybe even holding property, especially when considering multiple generations are involved?
I think that the best situations that I've seen is when people have the conversation up front and know what is the most important thing and then who is the decision maker there. When you have too many decision makers, it becomes a problem. So, knowing your goals up front and then who is going to be the decision maker is the best thing to have in place.
And Amy, this is a perfect fit for these two guests. When you hear these kinds of experiences, how does proactive planning help bring clarity and structure to situations like these?
Sure, they really are, and they're authentic and genuine perspectives about things that really encompass the whole picture. Whereas I just come in and I view my role as important in estate planning, but it's limited to documentation and making sure that it fits. And what should it fit? We've heard from both Alicia and Ashley what's important to families. So, from Alicia's perspective, the tailoring, making sure it fits into your family dynamic. What is it about um, your family's assets that is important, especially those assets you can actually hold in your hands? To some people, it's not what they have in their bank account or how much something, you know, less tangible is worth. It's really about those heirlooms passing down that legacy. Maybe it's a piece of jewelry, a piece of artwork, even cookware can have really substantial value within families, and passing on that legacy is something that I'm excited to just even be a part of for clients. And what Ashley pointed out and what I was hearing through everything she said was clarity. You want to have clarity, and you want to have it done in a way that's actually going to move or advance things forward. And I really enjoy being a part of that as well, helping people identify what is most important. So, Ashley's perspective is about real estate. That's very important to her family. So, if she was a client, we would craft a plan that is specific to what those assets are and how they might transfer over time, in addition to just the business succession side of things. And she brought up a really good point that me as an attorney, no amount of education in the world is going to tell me who in her family is going to be best suited for which roles. And that's where I really and enjoy learning about clients and their dynamics, and how things will actually be put in motion if there's an issue with incapacity or just passing the torch and a legacy.
And then, Amy, when families don't take the time to have these conversations or put a plan in place, what tends to become more difficult later on?
Sure. So, if there's a lack of planning or an incomplete plan, it can lead to confusion. It can lead to a lack of clarity and chaos, as well as just overall panic, because these things happen suddenly and fast. People can lose capacity instantly, or it can be a more gradual progression of incapacity, like Alzheimer's. And in that situation, the last thing you want to be thinking about is meeting with an attorney to scramble up some documents. Um, and it might already be too late under the circumstances, depending on what they are. A sudden stroke or a car accident, for example, somebody can lose capacity in an instant, and then it's too late to make those legally enforceable plans. So, what can happen is their wishes may be known among family casually, but they're not actually put in writing. Someone that's tangentially part of the family dynamic or a loved one who feels very important to that person can come in and say, well, so and so told me that this was to go to me, or that they would want me to step into their shoes and do X, Y, and Z. However, if it's not an illegally enforceable plan, it could lead to years and a lot of expensive litigation.
Here's where I want to wrap this up today, Amy. For those families trying to balance relationships, responsibility, and long term decisions, what does a thoughtful, proactive approach to planning actually look like?
Well, it starts with the client. So there's not a one size fits all. This is about tailoring to the family, picking up on those dynamics, and then also considering what are those asset types, what's an efficient way to transfer that legacy, as well as protect the client in times of incapacity. So I would say something they could do is talk to a qualified attorney in their jurisdiction where they live that can advise them on what those tools are that they can implement, what's a good fit for them, and have the client make an informed decision. It's not where I say, here's what you must have. It's really a collaborative process where we build out a plan that makes sense.
Thank you so much for your insight, ladies. This has been a wonderful episode of tying all of these generations together. And that's it for today's episode of While You Can Adventures in Life and Legacy Planning. If you're navigating the realities of supporting multiple generations while planning for the future, visit aereagan.com to connect with Amy and start building a plan that reflects what matters most to you. And don't forget to like, subscribe, leave a review if you found this episode helpful, and come on back. We'll see you next time.
Thanks for watching. Be sure to hit that like and subscribe button and leave us a review in the comments.